Patricia, as I've been introduced. I went to Rutgers eons ago when the Mayans were just babies. And I actually started, I was telling Pastor, I started at Tulane University in New Orleans, excellent Middle American studies and the library. However, I did not like it there because it was too much of a party school. God, I was dumb then, but anyway. I transferred on up to Rutgers, and I had to put myself through college after that since I lost all my scholarships, so I commuted. But I thought it was a great education. I really enjoyed it. I started being interested in archaeology, and I was sharing that with this young lady over here when I was 12 years old, and have stayed with it ever since. Now, knowing that I was going to be very poor being an archaeologist, I got a double major in communications. That's why I work in what I do in marketing. One of these days, I'm going to drag my poor husband, and I'm going to make him climb the pyramids. And I'm going to hear about it for the rest of my life after that. So maybe I do want doomsday to come quickly. Okay, so December 21st, 2012. Doomsday. We're all going to die. Well, at least that's what the rumor that's going around. And we have the Mayan calendar as well as others to blame. Okay, so we're putting this on the Mayas. Can anyone here tell me anything about the Mayas? I mean, since they're to blame for this world-ending day, don't you think we should know at least a little bit about them? So does anybody really know about them? Yes.
South America.
Close, but keep going. Yes. Well, you're close. You're at least in the same side of the world. Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. You want to do this now?
They have the largest pyramid in the world. The base of it is the largest pyramid of the sun.
That's actually, well, close. That's actually not Mayan, but very good. That's Teotihuanaco. Say that 8 times fast. Yes.
Is that where they have the golden streets, or is that the Incas?
Theoretically, that's the Incas, but there's a lot of cultures that lay claim to that. One being in Colombia, where my family is from. That is the thing of El Dorado, the golden one, the gilded one. But that's another Thursday night. Another Thursday night there. Yeah, she's I'm hanging myself already. But anyway, okay. So we do know that they were actually in Central America and in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. If you don't really know where the Yucatan Peninsula is in Mexico, it's that little thumb that kind of comes out a little bit like that where Cancun is. Everybody knows where Cancun is? That's it. And actually not far from Cancun, there are some Mayan ruins which are minor. They're not really true Mayan ruins. They are, but they're not worth it. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Words such as splendor and opulence and knowledge and mystery, that all revolves around when we talk about the Mayas. And mystery, that's probably why they left. And what they left and what we found to inspire our imaginations. And thank you. You can tell it's getting dry already. But let's take a few minutes to tell you some few facts about the Maya. All right, so we did discern that they flourished in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and parts of Central America, which is Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras. And their time periods are broken into 3 for ease, because there's actually, sub-time periods and everything, but there's 3. There's the pre-classic, which theoretically occurred between 2500 BC to AD 250. Pre-classic, so that kind of tells you they were in the developmental stage. The classic, the top of the line, when their culture was at the peak, was between 250 and 900. I'm not here. And the post-classic was 900 to 1500 AD when they met the Spaniards. During the classic period of the Maya, this is when they built the temples and the monuments. They created numerous works of art, such as the colorful temples, paintings, and the stone sculptures, or stela, what they call, and the writings or the hieroglyphs. They continued to do their astronomical observations and develop the numerical system, one of the very few cultures in the Americas that did. And they built a network of cities, such as Tikal in Guatemala, Palenque and Chichen Itza in Mexico, and Copan in Honduras. They supported and these were supported by a vast population on the outlying perimeters. So what we see, and when we see pictures or if we've had the opportunity to visit, you see several pyramids and mounds around. That's only a little bit of what really was around. It was very expansive because it's a civilization had a great population. And it's only within like the last 20 years that they've really discovered so much more about them. Another thing that it says here, we considered them originally that they were peaceful people bent on farming and weaving and pottery making and whatever else these citizens did to while the time away. And these centers were truly bustling with activity. However, human nature does prevail, and they were very warlike. And that's something that they've only discovered within the last 20 years. They thought they were the peaceful people of the Middle Americas, and they weren't. Excuse me for that. Okay. These cities lay buried under the jungle growth for centuries until the early 1800s, when they were discovered by the American diplomat to Central America, John Lloyd Stevens. And as I say, and his trusty sidekick, Frederick Catherwood, and his illustrations are just beautiful. He did lithographs. And the book, it's Incidents of Travel in the Yucatan Peninsula. That was the first book. And you can actually see he talks, and it's very interesting. I mean, even if you're not into archaeology, it's a very interesting tale of how he travels across all the different parts of it, all the mishaps and the adventures that he has, the thieves, all this kind of stuff, and stumbles upon different mounds. And these mounds are covered with foliage and trees and things like that. And he starts looking at it, and he sees intricate carvings. And he starts pulling it away, and it's more and more and more until he gets the local workers to start taking things out and sees that these are the remnants of some civilization that was really unknown to us or our cultures until about that time. And so, fortunately, as I say, his sidekick started doing the lithographs, and we have a lot of that preserved and what it originally looked like. So, and that's what turned me on to archaeology when I read that book. I thought it was the coolest thing. And that was only the beginning, because now tourists boldly climb all over and photograph these once unknown monuments to the gods. Then around 850 AD, this is when the Mayan classic period suddenly ended, and it was mysterious. They abandoned their cities, and we don't know why. I mean, we can presume or assume or whatever we want to do, theories, and it could have been from disease, natural disasters, deforestation, or even revolt. Anybody see Apocalypta? That's a movie by Mel Gibson that came out several years ago. And it's violent, but that kind of gives you an idea of what they think may have happened that brought down the Mayan civilization, because it does take place during that. So, for your pleasure, you can see Apocalypta. But now let's focus on that doomsday forecaster, the Mayan calendar round. That's pretty, isn't it? That's their calendar. Do they have what? They do. The Mayas use 3 separate calendars. And I warn you, this gets complicated, so I'm trying to keep it simple. And there will be a quiz at the end. Okay. The long count was principally used for historical purposes, since it can define any date for millennia, it's a long time, in the past and the future. The long count. Keep that one in the back of your head, because that's the one that really comes into play. The Ha'ab, and no, I didn't stutter there, was a civil calendar based on a year of 360 days, consisting of 18 periods of 20 days. Got that? That's on the test. 5 days were added at the end of the Ha'ab year to approximately synchronize it with the solar year. Does it kind of sound familiar with some kind of calendars we know here about adding days? The Tzolk'in calendar was used for ceremonial purposes, which had 20 periods of 13 days. The Tzolk'in calendar went through a complete cycle every 260 days. The significance of this cycle is unknown. It may be connected with the orbit of Venus, which has a period of orbit of 263 days. The Ha'ab and Tzolk'in dates did not have a year component. However, and this is where it really gets tricky, is a combined Ha'ab and Tzolk'in, I can't even say it anymore, dates specify a unique date within a 52-year cycle. Got all that? Okay, let's try to make it a little bit simpler. You were born on a specific date. That is your date under the calendar and the astronomical observations. Your name in there will incorporate part of that particular date, which is a combination of all three. And that is unique to you. And not only did it do that, but it established your place in society. It established what your work would be. So they really, really relied on the calendar for their total function. Okay. There is a great deal of interpretation that has been written about the Mayan long count. It has been claimed that it will come to an end in the near future, and along with it will arrive a Mayan apocalypse, a pole shift. How many have heard that one? Earth change, cosmic convergence, whatever. That's what's going to happen December 21st, 2012. The Mayans never predicted doomsday. Nowhere do you find it on their glyphs that the world's coming to an end. The cycle will end, but it's not like we're going to disappear, the world's going to explode or anything. It's worth emphasizing that this Mesoamerican calendar, and it was used by several cultures, including the Maya. It later influenced the Aztec calendar. If you look at it, it almost looks similar to that, with a few alterations in the names of the gods and the glyphs for that, in Central and South America before the European colonization. But remember, it does not predict an apocalypse. It never did, nowhere. Yeah, but you know our human impulses. You decode, you explain, you demystify, just to make it sound good. Authors disagree about what humankind should expect on December 21st, 2012, when the Mayans' long count calendar marks the end of a 5,126-year era. That's how long the long calendar runs. Yeah, really, that's a lot of pictures. Correct. They do. Okay. For example, and I went on the web and I just kind of picked out these different things of what they forecast, all these scholars and authors and whatever. Okay. A journalist, Lawrence Joseph, he forecast that widespread catastrophe in Apocalypse 2012, a scientific investigation into civilization's end. So his book says, forget it. Pay all your bills. Sit there, get ready. We're going. Maybe you shouldn't pay. No, you pay your bills. We're going to go with good conscience. Pay PP&L, please. Please. Okay. Spiritual healer Andrew Smith predicts a restoration of a true balance between divine feminine and masculine in the Revolution of 2012, Volume 1, The Preparation. So, as you can see, the more we start finding this, we can all do a wonderful spin on what's going to happen. I'm going to still try to develop one before that day. I'll publish it, and you guys will be the first to get it. In 2012, and this is a movie, and a documentary. I watched this one out of curiosity. Daniel Pinchbeck anticipates a change in the nature of consciousness. And this was his arriving at this was assisted by the indigenous insights and psychedelic drug use. Yeah, really. Actually, it was quite interesting because he did speak to shamans and everything like that and the insight. And I do like learning about different cultures. But, yeah, well, everybody's entitled to their own. But Mayan expert and a descendant of the Maya, Leonzo Barreono of the University of Regina in Canada, he's a journalism professor. He said that Mayan elders taught him that December 21st this year, it simply marks the start of a new calendar. That's it. No end of the world. The new calendar, the new long count calendar begins. And here I quote him. There are two sides of the story. The one that we know is that apocalyptic meaning that has been given to the long count, ergo, doomsday. The other side of the story is the Mayan side, which you rarely see on media articles because they never interview, as he says, my own people. How many Mayas do you see get, okay, what do you think? No, it's never that. For them, it's a joyous event. It's not an oh boy, definitely one of this. You know what I mean. It's not a doomsday event. What is coming is the end of a calendar and the beginning of a new one. Simply stated. It'll start all over again, yes. Correct. It is, yes. This is like, let's look at it this way. This was and will always be. Simple enough like that. That from the time that they established and they developed the calendar, from the beginning when they started keeping time and applying it to their life and their religious style and everything like that, it will always be. Now, the current Maya, the ones that are now inhabit Guatemala and Belize and all that, I mean, this now is being reintroduced to them as their heritage, but this was lost when the Spaniards conquered. Spaniards went and wiped out everything because that was, paganistic. You didn't want that. Nothing. They had all converted to Christianity, Catholicism. So all this was damaged and destroyed. There are books which are called codices. There's a book that is called the Popol Vuh, which really details a lot of their culture and their ritualistic things. All that, only that one and 1, 2, 3, I think 3 books of the Mayan codices were rescued. Everything else was destroyed. That's why I say, okay, come on, can you really read these books? I mean, how many years have you had a chance to really decipher them to all those specialists that say the world's ending? And now, ending the quote from this gentleman, it's cyclical. This has happened before. According to the elders, it's the 5th time it's happened. So this is the 5th time that they've gone around like that. So now, let's think about this. This has happened before. This is a civilization that suddenly collapsed, and we don't know why. So, question is, what is the likelihood that a civilization that couldn't use its vast knowledge to save itself from self-destruction was concerned about predicting what would happen in the future? If they couldn't save themselves, how could they tell us, predict that we were going to die on, after December 2021, 2012? They didn't do that. That's something that our scholars or our modern-day people are imposing on that. The Maya leaders couldn't see far enough into the future to plan for and solve the human problems they faced. Too many people on too little land, sound familiar? Destruction of their own environment, farming techniques, and deforestation that depleted their soil of nutrients, and droughts, which brought about more of the deforestation, and so on. Wars. Things like that. Humankind still goes on, doesn't it? So why should we think that the Maya prophets would be any better in talking about and predicting the distant future? And this is kind of paraphrased from what I found on the web, just to let you know where I got that part from. Looking, okay, well, too bad they couldn't predict their own collapse. In conclusion, the catastrophic significance of December 21st, 2012 may be regarded as, number one, Hollywood media hype. It's a reason to make films and to sell magazines, books, whatever, trinkets, tours. I have actually, when I was researching this on the internet, you should see all these Doomsday Maya tours that are and I mean, people are going there and climbing those. You know, when I climbed those pyramids, I didn't do it for Doomsday and paid triple the price. But yeah, I mean, wherever anybody can make a buck, they will, and that's what's going on here. So it boosts the bottom lines for entities to enrich themselves. Never changes, does it? It also enables manipulation of many with fear and the hypothetical observations and conclusions. Now, really now. Fear. Why control with fear and things that aren't based on something that really can be verified? The Mayan hieroglyphs have not been fully deciphered, let alone understood and verified by a consensus of scholars. The interpretations of the glyphs associated with the Maya and the calendar can only be relevant to our current view of the world. I mean, how can we extrapolate from stone the human essence of the Maya? I mean, it was a different time and a different life experience. So we're putting what we believe on something that's past that can't talk. I'm sorry? This just shows you. It's the human nature. It is. It's our human nature. Now, me personally, I plan to really enjoy December 21st. What does it mean for each of us? Well, it's what you want it to be. If you want to think that it's going to be a time of doom and gloom, or do you want it to be a joyous time and a hopeful day simply preceding December 22nd and 23rd and so on? I'm going to enjoy Christmas, and I'm going to look forward to spending time with my family and the loved ones. And as all you know, looking forward to my son being home then. And I can tell you one thing. I know more than likely that on December 22nd, my 3 dogs, and Patrick knows this, are still going to wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be fed and taken out. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Of the 3 books of codices that they discovered, basically in the 1500s they were wiped out.
Correct.
In the 1800s they discover the Mayan culture. Somewhere along the line they find these codices. And so we're only talking about 200 years now. Have they been able to interpret them and completely go through them and really?
They have been able to interpret them partially. Again, there are hieroglyphs that they haven't yet. And even that, there's debate. Some scholars say, well, this signifies this. This one says, no, that's that. It's the tree of life or whatever. So again, there's no real consensus for some very key points in that. And these codices were actually found not in Central America. They were actually found in Spain. They were taken back by the Spaniards, as treasures. Well, that one ended up in Dresden. Yes, correct. The Dresden Codex, correct. But originally, the Spaniards took them back from when that. So it was not in the Americas that it was found.
They printed books. How did you say they had 3 different books?
Okay, they were actually kind of like parchment, like bark, and they're very colorful, very beautiful. What they can have preserved of it, sort of like, and they're. I don't know if any of you have ever seen pictures of the temples and everything like that. You just see the stone. Close study of that actually shows that they were extremely colorful, very vibrant, and with the sun, that you could see them for miles. So you'd have to, when you look at this, you say, yeah, okay, it's stone, but they were very intricately painted, just like that. So imagine all the work that these artisans had are all these massive and numerous temples throughout the Mayan areas and like that. But they,
The bark was like a scroll down?
yeah, it was kind of, folded and that type of thing. So
From a historical perspective, you said that this calendar is 5,100.
the long count,
The long count.
the long count calendar
Right.
runs 5,126 years before it turns over and it starts all over again. And that's what is occurring on December 21st, 2012.
Studies to see what happened 5,121 years ago.
I'm old, but not that old. I know. I'm teasing. Hey, I told you I was going to tease you. When you came in, I said, I'm going to get right back at you. I guess they may be in the process. They look at some of the things, but it's just going on. And again, trying to put it in perspective, we're matching the 5,126 years to our current calendar, which is based on, does anybody know? The Gregorian calendar. So there are even scholars that are saying even that is now incorrect. It could give or take 100 years. So if you go on the web, you'll even see some that say, well, the date is off by 50 to 100 years. More and more, people are saying, this is not so. And I'm glad, because it really does require a healthy discussion there, and not everything put into one.
Well, the reason I asked that is my understanding, or at least what I believe, it's going to have the same significance as December 31st and January 1st, which is the end of our calendar.
Correct.
Every year.
For the Mayas, this is just another year beginning, another very long year.
So I think what's going to happen is Guy Lombardo and Dick Clark are going to
Dick Clark,
show up on top of the pyramid.
well, I think right now Dick Clark definitely will, because I heard he passed away. So, yeah, and my husband and I will probably not stay up like we usually go to bed at 10 o'clock. So, yeah, but, yes.
This lady has been wanting to ask a question. Approximately how big are these calendars each? Like how large?
The actual thing,
Yeah.
I saw the Aztec one in Mexico City. And the Aztec one, I think, would fit on here. That large, all around like that. The round. So I would think that that's about, I have not seen an actual Mayan one. I've been to the ruins, but I haven't seen a calendar one of them. But the Aztec one, which I mentioned was very similar, that was derived from the Mayan one, it was really large. Any other questions? Yes?
So do you know what any of the symbols on the calendars mean? Like you were saying, like...
That's dawn in the middle. She told me she was going to stick her tongue out. I'm trying to see if I can point out. There's got the numerical. I cannot see some of the bars. There's actually the Mayan calendar and the system of count is by bars and dots, and the bars signify 5 each, and the dots are single. And and the other thing, let me just a little aside now that we're talking about some of the symbols. This is the only culture in, I do not believe, and please don't quote me on this, it's been a while since I've studied the Egyptians and things like that actually developed a place for zero. And that they used, it looks like a shell, a stylized shell. So, if you were closer, you would be able to see some of that. I don't know what some of the other ones are, of the symbols like that. They all vary. I have not really brushed up on my symbolism lately. Sorry. Questions? Yes?
It's just a comment. We already lived through Y2K. I mean, it's the same thing.
And that's the thing that I have found a lot of people refer. Remember that? It was like everything was going to stop. I personally believe I'm going to have to take those dogs out the next day. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think our culture is changing, that we accept more hocus pocus, more
Ooh, you're getting me started on something. Yeah. Yeah, simply.
Sell newspapers,
Yeah.
get people scared to buy stock in oil, stock in beer, whatever the issue is, get them to do something and you make money off of it.
Exactly. And if you, I don't know if you have wanted it or researched it or want to research it, if you look at it, this is not the first doomsday. There have been numerous times that we have been, told that we're going to disappear from this earth. And I don't recall what year. I thought it was very interesting. Didn't it occur, I think, in New York State, followers of this gentleman, I think in the 1800s, something like that, and they all wore white robes or something like that, and they went and stood on the side of the mountain and waited for that day, and it never happened. And he said, okay, he went back and recalculated. Oh, I was off. Again, how many times can you cry wolf? It didn't happen as of yet. I'm sorry? Oh, I don't. That I don't. I mean, this I know, and this is, for time and time again. And we can, expand it beyond the Mayan calendar. Come on, Nostradamus and everything like that. It's all these predictions. Hey, if you want to live in fear and not have a good time and enjoy life, you can choose to do that. I will take my dogs out. That's all I keep saying. Yes.
I guess, listening to this and thinking about it, if there's anything we should take out of the Mayan calendar, Mayan culture, is how they disappeared off this earth. And if you look at how they disappeared off this earth, it's basically the same things happening now. And if we don't smarten up and stop the secular event, there is going to be a doomsday. It's going to be just like the Mayans being wiped off. We're going to be wiped off eventually too.
And as an archaeologist, and this is something that, it comes as an archaeological discussion, if we look back on all the civilizations past, it's always the same thing. And you would think that at some point in time we would learn. I don't know how many times it's going to take, but it is the same thing. It is overpopulation. It's destruction of our resources, not enough food, war, things like that. Things that we see that keep going on around us. And I guess that's why some of these authors say, you know what, this is going to be a total shift. I actually read some of this like, we're all going to be, on December 22nd, we're all going to be happy. We're all going to be friendly and loving, and the New World Order is taking over. Yeah. Now, this is the one that actually used those hallucinogenic things, so maybe it's going to be in our water system. I don't know. But, yes?
Do you know if the disappearance of the Maya culture was about the same time as the disappearance of the Anasazi in southwestern United States? Because they kind of disappeared too.
They also did. And did you, I don't know, I have recently heard that the Anasazi are offshoots of the Maya. So the Anasazi came actually afterwards. Yes, there's been more correlation on different things, that their iconography, that they believe the Anasazi actually is an offshoot of the wandering, what was left of the Maya.
Okay, but they moved north in
Correct.
Arizona. Did the immigration officials in Arizona?
You know what? They had that gate up, and the dogs were there.
I'm sorry, but I
No, that's fine. Yes.
Actually reading a book called The Road, and it's basically telling what happened after the world ended, which that there's only 2 people left, and all the other people are like bad, and they're walking through this ruined earth. And I didn't get all the way through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Scares you, doesn't it?
telling what people think is going to happen.
And that's what I'm saying. There are so many books out there, so many points of view, so many, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, and I kind of believe I want to stay true to myself and kind and loving and take my dogs out the next day. And that's it. I'll let Pastor take over now.